Hello and welcome to the PEX Network's webinar with GBTEC. Today, our conversation is about how Argano transformed process management. I am Francesca DiMeglio, a producer at PEX Network, and I'd like to introduce you to our esteemed guests. Shelby Bale is the Senior Manager, Delivery Operations at Argano. Marcella Cardone is Manager, Business Process Management at Argano, and Scott Letty is Vice President, North America at GBTEC. Welcome to all of you. Before I turn this over to you, I'm going to do just a little bit of housekeeping to prep our audience. We are delighted to have you all here with us today. We would love for you to participate in the live chat. Please use the live chat now to let us know where you're joining from so we can welcome you and ask your questions and share your comments about the discussion there. You can also use the Q&A button that you'll find at the bottom of your screen to ask questions if you'd like to remain a little bit more anonymous. At this time, I will turn this over to all of you, and I look forward to the presentation.
Thank you. We appreciate it, Francesca. Quick introduction. So again, my name is Scott Letty from GBTEC. GBTEC is a software provider of an integrated product suite driving business transformation. We have process design, BPM, enterprise architecture management, as well as process execution. We'll see a little bit of that in the Argano environment towards the end of this webinar. Let's kick it over to Argano for some quick intros on themselves and their business, and then we'll get into the discussion.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shelby Bale, and joining me is Marcella Cardone, and we both work at Argano. At Argano, we are an IT company, and we have offices all over the world, which is very exciting. We are one of the world's first and largest digital services consultancies. So we're focusing exclusively on enabling high performance for our clients. We originally reached out to GBTEC to start transforming our company and our processes and standardizing. We're about a bunch of small companies coming together to make a very large company. So we're now over 2,000 people.
Great.
Yeah.
And Shelby, when I think from the BPM side about consulting companies, IT providers, I usually think of how can they provide process transformation services for their clients.
Yep.
I was very interested to do this discussion because you're actually using it today for internal processes. So could you talk a little bit about what types of processes you saw that needed improvement? You know, what types of processes does a professional services company like yours need to manage, need to design? Obviously, you're not dealing with physical assets, you're not dealing with logistics, you're dealing with people, and the people are your product. So I think it'd be very interesting to hear kind of what types of processes in the back end Argano internally is using BIC for.
So we're trying to roll out BIC company-wide, so globally. Seeing as we started as a bunch of small companies, we're moving to a large company, everyone has their own processes that they're bringing to the table. So as an IT company, yes, we do help our customers with their processes. We have teams that do that, but internally, we also need to integrate and standardize and elevate our internal processes as well. So given that we've worked with GBTEC for about 2 years now, we've done the interviewing process, the onboarding process, the lead lifecycle management process, project setup, and you can see kind of a trend here. These are all processes that are helping us lead and elevate our company to that next level. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say another interesting point that we know about Argano is that there's a acquisition growth strategy, right? There's a lot of different moving parts. How do you decide when you integrate a new company or acquire a new company? Do we take some of their best practices? Do we have standard best practices we deploy to them? How do you get to from the delta of they do things completely differently down to as standard as we possibly can? Can you talk a little bit about those challenges that you've seen?
Yeah, so we try to get everyone, the key stakeholders, all in one room. We talk through the process. We give everyone the opportunity to add what they would like as part of the process. And then we come to an agreement on, does it make sense? Does it work with our current systems? can we move forward with it, or how can we change it just a bit to fit more of our model? We try to enable a collaborative environment for not only our current joiners, our current companies, but also the ones that we're acquiring too. So that way everyone has a seat at the table when it comes to our processes.
Excellent. And when I've talked with customers about process design, or even prospective customers about process design, it's a lot on the diagrams, right? It's a lot on just the squares and the shapes and the lines. We try to talk about it holistically, right? Not just what are the diagrams, but how do those connect to people? How do those connect to technologies? How do those connect to strategic initiatives? How do those connect to compliance? So as you've been going on your kind of BIC journey here, how have you seen BPM elevate from just a diagramming project to, yes, now that we have diagrams, we can start to expand this and start to model other areas of the business to really get a more holistic and layered understanding of how we operate?
Yeah, so we've started at a level 1 when we're creating our diagrams. And so that way we know where as a company we want to go with our processes, what takes priority over something else. So the diagrams are a great place to start. And then within those diagrams, you can add in documentation, KPIs, and different variants. You can go down to, level 5, level 6, and really get into the details. So the diagrams are really where we start. And then within those diagrams, which is something I absolutely love, a manual comes out of that as well, which gives you a high level of, the process, that diagram itself, as well as the RACI that comes out of it, which in IT, a RACI is, a really big thing for us, and being able to implement new processes and those standardizations. So we really love the diagrams as a place to start. Something really awesome that we're going to show today that I'm really excited about is we've also done workflows to help efficiency and also to help with standardization of those processes. We've actually cut down on costs on certain things due to the workflow and using BIC to assist us with that, which is something really cool that I actually have never seen before working, 10 years in IT. A lot of our processes were originally kept in Visio offline, different people, who knows who has it, and then it's trying to get everyone aligned. So using BIC to help with that has saved Argano so much time. It's helped standardize everything. And then with those diagrams, process flows, and then workflows, it's really helped overall, with our company. Even just us getting started, there's so much more we can do. And even with BIC.
So I think you touched on this a little bit before. There was Excel, Visio. Can you talk a little bit about, say, God forbid, BIC disappears tomorrow? What would your life look like? How would you fulfill these responsibilities that you have?
Oh gosh, I don't really know. It would just, if BIC disappeared, we would go back to having to use Visio and trying to figure out what are we gonna do, and workflows go back into emails get lost in things, there's no tracking for them, there's no workflow, so we're not able to integrate everything like we're looking to do with BIC. We're looking to integrate all of our systems into BIC, out of BIC, to get reporting, to be able to report up, up to our C levels for all of the data that's coming through. So honestly, we would be in a hard place. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, going back to Visio would be pretty tough.
We'll keep it operational for you.
Yeah.
Just have to deal with that. And we talked a little bit about the workflows. I want to talk a little bit. We're going to see some of the automations. We talk a lot with customers. Everyone 5 or 6 years ago went automation crazy, right? Let's just start automating everything we can. We've seen a lot of those companies realize, hey, how do we know if we're automating the right things? How do we know if we're automating things in the right way? Can you talk a little bit about how the background and what you're building in process design allows you to understand those automations in context, understand how they need to be operated, understand what should be automated and what not, versus just buying an automation tool, starting to build automations kind of ad hoc?
Yeah. So it really goes back to the stakeholders, right? And trying to figure out where we can get started on these. And then with brilliant minds like Marcella's, they're the ones that help us identify what makes sense to help with those automations, to help with the workflows, the process flows, so on and so forth. That's where Marcella plays a really big role, is to identify that for our company, and then we bring that to the table. Hey, well, this is what we're looking at, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to automate, and then we look at how do we move forward with that. So it's really important to have a team, like Marcella's team, business analysts, business process management experts, to help us identify that and where we need to go with that.
Excellent. And tied into business process management, which I do think is a misnomer in the current BPM, is the legacy kind of terminology.
Mm-hmm.
It's also an improvement effort. It's not just understanding and managing, it's also looking for areas of improvement. Either that's automation or that's redesigning the process. Again, we have new company coming in, new employees coming in. We need to do things a different way. Can you talk us through kind of from step one, how do we, now that we've mapped the process, how do we go through the analysis of the process to start to design a more optimal process?
Yeah, so that's why we have business analysts and business process management. They're wonderful at identifying where there's risks and issues. So how it typically works for Argano is we have a process need, or we have our level one that we've outlined where we might need a process that we need to focus on, right? And usually for an IT company, we're focused on revenue generating processes to begin with. So bringing in new hires, looking at the lead lifecycle management process, looking at our non-billable process, and that workflow there. And then from that point forward, we start the discussions around that process itself. That's where we bring our business analysts in to help ask the questions as we walk through the process, identify risks, gaps. As someone who's worked in project management for a long time and with a lot of really smart people, you don't realize, those gaps are missing in processes. You write everything down on a piece of paper, but no one's asking you, hey, have you thought of this? This looks like a risk. It looks like there's a gap here. And that's where that business process team, those business analysts come into play, where they can help say and ask those correct questions to get us to that next step and to elevate our processes from just a click here, click here, click here process to a full documentation, racy to go along with it. And, by the time it's submitted, out there for the company, it's a full-blown process, document, diagram, everything to go along with it. And hopefully there's no gaps at that point. I mean, nothing's perfect at the end of the day, but we try really hard to get our processes to a point where people aren't coming back and asking those questions.
So when you, and we have a poll question, which we'd love to let the audience in on, but I'm also going to ask you, when you started this journey at Argano, what was the level of process maturity? Was it, we really have no idea about any of our processes? Some of them were documented. We don't know if they follow them. They had the processes, they're monitored, or were they already kind of driving a process improvement journey? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you.
Well, everyone had their own processes. So it was really hard to identify a specific process to start with because everyone brought their own process to the table. We migrated them into the Argano systems. Everyone brought their own process to the table. The migration, our implementation migration team would help point people to the proper direction of things, but we really didn't have a whole lot of truly documented processes for our systems. Now, using BIC, and we have our business process team, Marcella's team, we're really moving up. So just on like the poll, we probably started around like ad hoc defined, and we're making our way up to managed. And again, we haven't, it's been probably year and a half, 2 years that we've been using BIC, and we've already made a ton of progress where we're starting that standardization. We have a list of processes that are defined that we're working on. So yeah, we're making our way up to managed, and hopefully by the end of 2025, 2026, we'll be at that optimized phase.
Excellent. So as someone who's coming from that ad hoc, and I saw the poll, there were a lot of people who felt like they were in that space. What's your advice? How do I get from ad hoc? We really have either, if we have a lot of people doing processes differently, we basically don't have processes, right? Like, so what's our first steps getting from that to the next phase of, yes, we're defining them in some type of standardized way, in some type of collaborative way. What would you recommend to our audience to get started on that journey?
Oh gosh. I mean, just get your company's key stakeholders in a meeting and outline just in a list, hey, what are our processes? Like, what do you do in a day? If I were to sit down with you, Scott, and say, hey, from the beginning of your day, what do you do through the end? What processes do you have to go through? And do we have anything documented, or is it all in your head? A lot of the times people are going to say, here's what I do in a day. It's all in my head.
Yes.
Right? Or it's, I have it outlined in like my OneNote and that's what I'm using. So that's where we really got started. Was we have all of these really awesome tools that we're using, D365, Salesforce, Oracle, and we need to figure out, Scott, your job, you need to do X to get through your day for this specific task. So just outlining that level one process across the board. What does everyone do? What are their processes? Then from that point, you can figure out what's the highest priority to assist your company. And those key stakeholders will assist with determining what comes first, second, and third, and help with that prioritization. And then you can start to document, right? Hopefully, it's not one person just document everything. Hopefully, there's a couple in there asking questions, pushing people through, right? The support to help with that. And then identifying those gaps that come along with it. Slowly but surely, you'll get up to that defined manage stage. And I would say one process document in like a month or two, like that's really good progress. And that's one, process, one team that you've really taken care of, and you've saved the company money by just saving that team's time on onboarding a new person, helping them through the process, right? So on and so forth, so they don't have to fumble through. As someone who has had company who has been acquired by other companies, it's really hard to come on board and not have something tangible to put in your hand to know what you need to do every day, or to know how to do something, one part of your job. So just slowly documenting those processes and then sitting down and figuring out the gaps and how you can fill the gaps, whether it's using a specific system. Maybe there's a tool that your company doesn't have quite yet that you guys need. That's huge for any company.
Step one is purchasing BIC. You missed that,
Step
but
one, I did. You're so
person.
right.
Yes, sorry.
That is the step that we were missing when we
There you
first
go.
started documenting processes, which is why we found GBTEC.
And you mentioned something important when you said, not just one person hopefully is doing this. So I think we get questions a lot, probably questions some people are asking themselves watching this, like, do I have to be a process expert to start documenting? Do I need to know all the intricacies of BPM 2.0? How do I, as just if I were to do processes for, like, say, sales process, what level of understanding of process taxonomies and language do I need to get started?
I think a lot of people don't realize how much they know about processes when they get started. We all play a specific role within our companies, and we go through steps to complete any one of our jobs, right? And that is a process. So I think a lot of us don't realize that we actually know the process. And I think the first step in any good process is just documenting step by step, right? And just even if it's in bullet points, if you don't know how to write a process document, which I really didn't either until Marcella sat down with me and was like, this is how you do it, Shelby. Because I would just do step by step, walk through it, so on and so forth. And Marcella was like, hey, let's go through this. And that's really like, if you have no idea, you are junior to this, bullet points to get you started. And those bullet points expand so quickly.
Yeah, and it is interesting because you're right, in our heads, we all have an idea of what the process is. But if someone asked me to define it, it would be a little difficult because I'm just used to instinctually doing it. But sometimes I do it in different ways, in different order. I don't know really the best way to do it. I just know my way to do it. And it takes sometimes a third party to look at this and say, hey, Tim over here does it this way, actually, or we've seen a lot of success doing it this way. Let's see how we can marry what you're doing today with what our best practices are. Which leads me to my next question is, how do you straddle that line kind of as an internal consultant between understanding how different teams, and obviously at Argano, you're different companies, different teams, everyone's used to working a different way. How do you handle the change management aspect to not say, hey, we've defined how we do this process, this is how you're going to do it now, but there are certain, what's that percentage of we can keep the things you do today with our flavor on them, with our recommendations? What does that change management process look like?
Well, we have a really awesome change management team, both customer facing and internally. So a lot of that we don't have to think too much through because our change management team is asking us the questions. They're sitting in the meetings, they're helping us walk through those. So that provides us with a lot of assistance, to be fair. They're professionals, they have the right certifications, they walk us through it. Now, when we talk about bringing everyone together, trying to add a little bit of everyone's flavor to it, we have to set up projects for our customers, billing purposes. We're an IT company, so we obviously submit time. This is a great example, but everyone had their own way of doing it. Same clicks, similar motions, but differences on setups, right? How many projects we set up, what type of projects we set up, so on and so forth. So we got our business process management team together, our OCM team, and we had a representative from each of our business units get together, and we all agreed on a process and a standardization together. For me, I think the most important thing is to ensure that everyone feels heard and that they are heard, and ensuring that everyone agrees upon how we're going to move forward with a process. And I say that, not everyone's going to agree all the time, but it's about, getting the majority to agree on something. Let's give it a go. We can come back and we can always change a process later. But, that first step in that process is just everyone getting together and doing it. Our OCM team helps with identifying, hey, this change could cross into this team. We need to get that team involved as well, right? So when we talk about project setup, finance has to get involved. Didn't even think of that at first. So we came to this agreement for writing this process. OCM was like, hey, finance, you forgot about a finance team. We're like, oh, crap. So, bringing them in to make sure that how we're working with our delivery teams and our project setup teams doesn't, negatively impact finance is just a good example of what a good job our OCM team does.
Yeah,
and why they're so important to have in all of our meetings. Sorry to talk over you there.
no, I was going to interrupt you. I was just thinking as you said that's part of when we talk about process design moving beyond just the diagrams. It's also the people. And when you start to diagram a process, someone like that does say, wait, doesn't finance have to get involved in this? You're thinking from your context. You don't see that, right? An email goes out, finance just does what they do. But if we're going to change this process, there may be changes that impact and roll up to how the finance does their process. So when I see users using BIC to the maximum, it's really making all those connection points so that we're not just improving processes in isolation. We're keeping everyone, like you said, that RACI matrix, making sure that all of these people are aware of the change, can provide input on the change and agree to the change so that one day they don't show up and say, well, wait a second, the form used to look like this. Now it looks like this.
Yep.
Who changed that and why? Because we're not set up for the form to look like this. So I think that's a very important point of getting that operational model a little bit more than just the level 5, level 4, level 3, even on the page. The stakeholders involved in the relationships between that you don't even realize are there until something changes, and then people start calling in saying, hey, hold on, I'm used to getting things in a certain format. I'm used to doing things a certain way. And you say, oh, wait, I didn't even realize you guys had an issue, but somewhere along the line, we changed the process. And all the way up here, this person's being negatively impacted by it. So keeping that holistic
Exactly.
mind.
And that's why BIC is such an amazing tool, right? Because if everyone just used Visio and kept their offline version or kept it on their team SharePoint, there's no connection between the two, right? So we could have our project setup Visio over here. It's not going to create this really amazing document that we can quickly share to everyone, right? But also it's not going to connect with the finance team's Visio, which is all the way over here in this other SharePoint, right? So using BIC, we can have the full project setup process and we can connect it with the finance process portion of that too. And then, the manual that comes out of that with all of the races and all of that and the diagram showing, everything's interconnected all in one space. So,
Two more questions, and then we'll get to show some of what you guys have built. The
yeah.
first is the end user. So you are the process expert, you're an author, you're designing, you're analyzing. Me, as someone who just joined the company or is just moving into a new business unit, what would I use BIC for? What would I go to BIC to find? And what types of information would be there that would help me as a guy who knows nothing?
Yeah, so we're actually going to start, my team is going to start helping with the onboarding process for our project managers. It's also great. One of the workflows we're going to show is around the interview process, which is really useful for our recruiters, our HR team, the managers, so on and so forth. So it's a great tool to use for onboarding people to the company. Hey, here's your role. Here's the steps that you need to take when interviewing, onboarding, so on and so forth. Here's the different teams that it actually touches throughout that process. And something we're going to show is how you can attach documents to BIC as well. So I don't have that person who is being onboarded to the company, they don't have to go search in this site all the way over here to try to find the document, or whatever it may be on SharePoint. It's all within BIC. So Scott, you're starting with our company, you're one of our recruiters. You need to start the interview process. Well, here's the diagram to go along with that. Here's all the steps. Here's, the export, that manual for it to show you who's responsible, accountable, informed of all of the different steps. And you know what? You don't have to go look for that form to be able to fill out, to ask those questions. It's all within BIC for you. So,
Right. So I don't just
yeah,
get a 37-page document
yeah.
SOP. Okay, I got to search through and figure out where am I now? Who do I call? It's the person who I need to, get the laptop from is in there. The form I need to submit the laptop is in there. So it becomes, even though it's visually, I can understand it. I understand my role in this, what I need to do, have all the tools I need right there, and then understand what other stakeholders within the company do I need to interface with, even though I don't know them yet. They're all defined. My organizational structure is defined based on what they do.
Exactly. Yep. Tells you which systems you need to interact with as well. I know as someone who interviews for a company, it's a little bit daunting before you even get in that interview. You're like, oh, I need to get this document up. I need to get into this system to make sure that I'm ready to go. I need to have my Outlook up. It's really daunting, right? There's a lot that goes into the interview process. If you've never done it before, there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes for the people who are actually doing the interview. So you, Scott, as a recruiter, right, for Argano, you don't have to worry about all of that. You don't have to read a 37-page document, right? I've had to do that before, and it is, you search for one word and you get like 100 matches to that one word, and that one word is actually not the word that you're looking for, right? It's actually called something different at Argano, and you're like, I don't know where to go, and then you have to give someone a call, and then there's a half an hour call to go through
If
the
you
whole
know who to call.
process if you know who to call. Exactly. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Final question. I'm no longer a recruiter. I'm now the CEO of Argano. And I'm coming to you and saying, Shelby, why does
Oh,
this
you're
matter?
putting me on the spot right now.
Why does process matter to me at a strategic level? Why should I care about the work that is being done at the process level? What's your justification to say, here's why this is going to be helpful to us in the long run? Here's how this fits into our strategic vision. Go, and we'll see if you get approved.
Hopefully he's not on this call, and hopefully no one tells him this, but hopefully this is how he's thinking, right? Standardization is so important. It saves the company time and money. So when you standardize processes, people don't have to spend an hour-long meeting with another person to be able to find out where they need to go, right? So you're saving the company time and money by standardizing those processes and allowing for a single place, a single diagram, a single workflow to go to, right? So, Scott, my CEO, we've saved you money by creating these processes to help these specific teams. And as we continue to go, we're going to continue to save the company money by creating workflows, process flows, diagrams to assist with onboarding, right? To assist our HR teams. Hey, they onboard a new person to the company. Here's what you need to go. Here's the diagrams you need to see within BIC. Here's your process manual, so on and so forth. So overall, standardization of processes is incredibly important for every company. I think we've all been a part of a company where it's not standardized, right? There's really nothing out there, and you're frustrated trying to get onboarded, and you're not sure how to do your job.
Yes, and we've all interacted with companies who don't have standardized process. If there's anyone from
Yes.
Hertz Rent-A-Car here, I've got some words for you on. Could you use some Vic? No, that was a great pitch, and I think that's really important. That this concept of standardization is not simply for the sake of standardizing, but there's actually real business value to drive. And once you standardize, again, then you can start to look for improvements. Because if we're trying to improve a process and there's 7 different versions of it, how can we have one improvement or 2 improvements that really fix this process if we don't really even know what the process is?
Exactly. And then, Marcella might have a different process than I do, even though we're on the same team, but it's on our laptops, right? Having a single source of truth updates all of that. It's invaluable, in my opinion, for any customer or company.
All right. Well, we've talked about it. And for those of you who have stuck with us through this little role play, let's show what we've built in the big process. So we still have time for questions at the end. I know you guys have a couple of cases that you'd like to show. So I'll hand it over to Marcella Shelby, walk through the BIC environment,